Welcome to my Sitecore Diaries. This is additional pages series. Today we are going to see top 10 Sitecore best practices. Before starting, let me introduce myself. I am Jitendra Ghanekar. I'm an Sitecore 10.NET certified developer. I'm a Sitecore architect and consultant from Mumbai. So let's start today's episode. So first, best practice, use of a Helix architecture. What is Helix architecture? It is a collection of recommended practices and convention for the solution architecture of Sitecore project implementation. It is a modular or component based architecture which is recommended by Sitecore. Now, what is Helix architecture in detail? We had already have one video. I will be giving the link of that video in the I button. You can have a detailed understanding of Helix architecture. So first is the use Helix architecture, then why we should be using the Helix architecture. Okay, first of all, the Helix architecture supports the modular and component based architecture, which helps to utilize the main features of Sitecore such as a personalization, usability of the component. So we also have another video where we discuss what is component based architecture and how it supports by Sitecore. So for those main functionality, it's very important to have modular and component based architecture. So which is designed by the Helix architecture. Then it is easy for the maintainability and stability of the solution. Troubleshooting become easier, okay, because it address the dependency at the architecture level itself. Easy to communicate with the Sitecore, because Sitecore themselves has support recommend the Helix architecture. It is easy to communicate with them, and due to Helix architecture, it is reusable. So you can reuse and modify component across the multiple website. So that means faster time to market. So you are using the same component in multiple websites. So time to market will become fast. Okay, so this is the reason first you should use Helix architecture as a best practice. Second one, use template inheritance. So what is template inheritance? We can create common or a base template which will be having a common fields which can be used in multiple other templates. Okay, so you break down your multiple templates in one common template where you can find out the common fields. You make it that as a base template and inherit that in other templates. Okay, again for the inheritance we have already have another video which we have created in our channel. So I will give that link in that top I button, and then you can check out what is inherit template inheritance. Okay, and why we should be doing this. First thing, avoid duplication of the field. So once you use the template inheritance, it will avoid the duplication of the field. More reusability of the template. So you can reuse the template. Easy to maintain. Okay, you can easily maintain the template. Once you define your templates, you cannot restructure it later as it may lose the data. Thus, it is very important to design your templates carefully at the starting of the project only. So basically, if you design your template and you want to restructure those template, you want to remove, you add. In that case, there is a chance of losing the data. So once you remove the field, the data will go. Okay, so it is very important to design your templates carefully. So that is the reason why you should put some effort, some thoughts before starting the project on your template inheritance. So this is the second best practice, that you should use the template inheritance properly. Third one, use standard values and insert options. So what is standard value? It is an instance of your template which help you to define static or dynamic default values, default presentation of an item, icon of your template. It defines which items can be added as a child to the item by using insert option. It is created as a child item of the template in the template section and named as the underscore standard values. Token can be used to define dynamic values in the standard values, and these tokens are replaced by values only when you create a new item. It is a standard practice to add default presentation details of an item those standard values and which can be override at item level if needed. It is a standard practice to apply insert option on the standard values of a template so that non-admin user can add items in the content editor. So again, standard values and insert option for both we have already have a detailed video, which link I'm giving again in the I button and the description. Okay, you can have a look on it. So basically, standard value is an instance of your template which helps you to define few default values. Okay, as a best practice, you should have some default values, default presentations, icon, insert option, and the standard values label so that the content editor can use it. So why it is important to add and why it is a best practice, because first of all, it makes content editor work easy as they will have a default values and presentation available on the creation of an item. So once you create an item, the default values will be there on the all the fields whichever whatever you have applied, and also the presentation will be there, so you do not have to define the presentation for every new item. Okay, second thing is insert option, because insert option, without insert option the non-admin user can't add anything in the content. Okay, so that's the reason insert option should be there, otherwise it will be a problem for the content editor to work on those. Okay, so this is the third best practice, use standard values and insert option. Fourth best practice, use dynamic bindings. So what is dynamic binding and what is static binding? First of all, let's see static binding. Rendering a component directly on layout by using either ID or path of the component or rendering. It is like hard coding and binding components at compile time. So you are hard coding your component at the in the code, and it is binded at the compile time. This should be used only for the renderings or a component which should be visible always like a headers and footers and should not be changed by the content editors. If you want the component which should be always there and the content editor should not design it or should not change it, then in that case you should be using the static binding. What is dynamic binding? Rendering component by using a placeholder. So if you use a placeholder and use the placeholder for rendering the component, it is binding components at the runtime. So you are binding the component at the runtime. If you want to utilize a feature like experience editor personalization, then you should be using the dynamic binding. Now why you should this is a best practice, why should you should use a dynamic binding? Dynamic layout engine, personalization, experience editor, these are the standard Sitecore features. Okay, these are the feature which makes the Sitecore as a enterprise level CMS. It is a feature for which the client is paying the money or for the Sitecore license, and if you are not using the features, then it will be like you are not using the heart of the Sitecore. Okay, you are not utilizing the heart of the Sitecore. So this is the reason why you should be doing is use the dynamic binding, but only using the dynamic binding you can do a dynamic layout. You can use the dynamic layout engine, you can do a personalization, even the experience editor can be used only if you have a dynamic binding. So this is the fourth best practice, you should use dynamic bindings. Fifth best practice, use of a patch files. So what is patch file? It is recommended to use a patch files that are directly updating the Sitecore config files. So basically, you don't update the config files directly, Sitecore file directly. Instead of that, create a patch files. Okay. Patch files are merged with the Sitecore config. So at a runtime, it is merged with Sitecore config. If the same configuration is found in multiple patch files, the configuration from the last patch file processed and is the configuration that is used. There is no limit on creation of a patch file. You can use any number of patch files. You can view final configuration using your domain /sitecore/admin/showconfig.xpx. Okay. Now, why should you use a patch files? First of all, it helps to handle the updates in Sitecore config file when you are planning for an upgrade later. So whenever you are trying to upgrade it, it will help you in the in your upgradation, because you do not have to remember what are the changes which you have done. You will have a separate patch file which you just we have to update on the latest upgraded version of the site code. And it is easy for a maintenance and troubleshooting also. You can easily maintain it, and you can have a easily troubleshoot it. Okay, so that's the reason you should use the patch file. So fifth best practice, use of a patch file. Sixth best practice, provide support to experience editor and do test it. So what is experience editor? I think everybody knows what is experience editor. So it is very important to build and test your website to support experience editor. You should be building your website considering you are supporting the experience editor. Now you can do it. Experience editor is a build for a non-technical user. So it is for a non-technical users. So in experience editor, author not only can edit the content, but they should able to design the pages. Okay, so for that you should use a field render method or field helper for rendering the field. Instead of using the HTML tag, you should be using the Sitecore helpers, Sitecore field helpers. Use proper naming conventions so that components can be identified easily by the non-technical users. So name of the component should be in such a way that non-technical users should understand what purpose that component is used. Okay, and then use a setting such as allowed control, compatible renderings, placeholder settings, field editors, data sources. For all these, we have separate videos for allow control, compatible renderings, placeholder settings. I think field editor we didn't have till now any videos, but I will try to make that also. And then data sources. So all those links I will give you in the description, and if possible on the link, so you can go and check that individual videos. Okay, so this is what you should be doing for the to support the experience editor. But why we should be doing it? Using the expense editor, to use of expense editor is to edit the content inline. Okay, so it is like look like pages will be like a, it is looking like a website page. Okay, so that is how it is users are updating it. So they will understand how the page will look in the on the website. Okay, so that is the reason why experience editor should be there, and it is the feature of a site code. It is the best, one of the best feature of a site code, for which client is again paying for money. So you should be using that. And expense editor makes it easier to configure the component personalization and multivariate testing. So what the features which a site code comes, like personalization, multivariate testing, those will be given only if you're supporting the experience editor. And it is very important to test the experience editor. So generally what we do is we just test the website whether it is working or not. But if you are using HTML tag in your code, then the experience editor, the pages might know you are not able to, the content editor may not able to edit those content. Okay, so that is very important to you test it whether your page is working in the experience editor or not, because experience editor is the key functionality of the site code, and you should be providing the support to the experience editor, and you should be testing it. So that is our sixth best practice: provide support to experience editor and do test it. Seventh best practice: multilingual, multi-country, and multi-brand support content architecture. What is multilingual? Support multiple languages for the same website. So you can have a multiple language for your one website. Multi-country, support to multiple country website for same business. Okay. Then multi-brand, support to a multiple website for a different business for the same company. You should always set up a fallback for a language, configuration, label, messages, and item. Okay, so there should be always a fallback of your language, configuration, labels, messages, and item. Okay, so everything should have a fallback. So why we should be doing so? It will be easy to manage and maintain the website. IT resource involvement for the creation of a language, countries, or a brand website is get reduced. No need to enter modify same content for a multiple website. So you have a same content, like there is some English labels which will be used for all the link countries of a which speaks link English. So for those the label will remain same. So if you create a fallback, then you can have a shared content. So that way it is easy. So it is very important to design your content tree which will have a support to a multilingual, multi-country, and multi-brand websites. it can be done by setting up the fallback languages for language configuration, label, message items, and also creating some shared content. Okay, so the 7 best practice: multilingual, multi-country, and multi-brand support content architecture. So 8 best practice: utilize Sitecore roles and permissions not only for the CMS but for application. So what it is, while developing your application, you should think about the roles and permission for both kind of users. On your website, there are two kind of users. One is which visit your website. Those are your customers, website visitors, and another is your content authors and designers, admins, which you log in your CMS. Okay, so you think about both the users and their roles and permission. For website user, you should create application domain and corresponding roles. If you are having a login on your website, then it is more critical to do this. You can utilize a virtual user functionality in case you have a separate user database service. So you can think about when you create a login, you should utilize the Sitecore roles. There's something called virtual user functionality. You can utilize that functionality if you're using a third-party database or services like you are using Azure directory or something like that. When you are using a third-party user, then think about your using the virtual user functionality. Create your application domain, create the roles for them, define their permissions, and accordingly you can utilize it. Then your normal content authors and content designer, you should use a Sitecore domain and users, and you should manage their access on role basis. Also inheritance, you make sure that you use the inheritance properly in the roles also. Okay, so that it is easy to maintain. Okay, so it is very important to utilize roles and permission not only for your CMS side but for your application side. And why it's so? You do not have to write the separate code for your authorizing the request. Sitecore security will automatically handle those. Okay, so if you use the proper roles and permission, then there's no explicit code is required. It is Sitecore who will handle those permissions. Okay, so it is very important to use Sitecore roles and permission not only for CMS but for the application. So that is the 8th best practice. So 9th best practice: configure your Sitecore server's role properly. So there are total 5 roles which Sitecore has. Okay, for server roles which Sitecore has. First is the content delivery, which delivers the content to the visitor. So second is the content management, which manages the content for the website. Third is the processing, which processes the XDB content. Reporting displays analytics reports. Standalone, everything is in one server, so that is used for the development. You should configure all your Sitecore instance server to perform a dedicated task as defined above. So content delivery should be performing only the content delivery, content management should perform the content management activity, processing should perform the processing activity, and reporting should perform the reporting activity. So you should create your Sitecore instances and servers such that they will be dedicatedly performing this task. So accordingly you configured your configurations. And why we should be doing this? It will address your performance bottleneck. So content delivery will performing the content delivery work, content management will performing the content management work. So and the processing and reporting, you are doing their work. So it will address the performance bottleneck. So there will not be any performance bottleneck. And second most important thing is it will improve the security of your system, as you are not exposing everything to the external world. So you are only exposing the content delivery to the external world. So that will help with the security also. Okay, so your content management, processing, reporting, whichever the internal things which will be in the internal network, so that will help you with the security also. So that is a 9th best practice: configure your Sitecore servers role properly. So 10th best practice: keep your application and Sitecore platform project separate. So what is Sitecore platform project? Which is basically your platform which provides a framework to run your website. You can have a multiple website with a different business domain running on your Sitecore platform. So it is basically concentrated on the Sitecore itself. So whatever changes which you are making on your Sitecore platform, that should be your separate projects. And what is your application website? Which is your application which provides the functionality to your visitors. So both projects should be separate. In fact, if you have a large project, then the teams also should be separate. Your Sitecore platform team should be separate. Application website team should be separate. So if there is anything which you are performing on the CMS or on the platform, then that will be given to the Sitecore platform team, and that platform will be used by the multiple websites. So your website teams will be separate. So that separation should be there, not only in the project but also in the teams. So it always advisable to keep your Sitecore platform and your application project different. If you are using Helix, first point, then it may address automatically. It is not always it will be addressing. It may be addressing it automatically, but in case not, then you should be making sure that you are doing this, that your application website is separate and your Sitecore platform is separate. And why we should be doing this? It removes the tight coupling between Sitecore CMS and application. So if there is any patching which needs to be done on the Sitecore CMS, then it will be always done by on the platform or by the platform team on the platform project. So it will not impact the every application. If it is tightly bind, then it will impact the application. It will reduce up the upgradation efforts timeline as platform dependencies are moved to the separate project. So it will help you in the upgradation. It will reduce the upgradation efforts and time. You can have a multiple application on the same CMS instance. So this way you can have a one CMS instance with a multiple website without having any dependency on each other. So this is the reason why you should keep your application and Sitecore platform project separately. And I will suggest that you keep your team also separately, your platform team and the project team separately. So there's the 10th best practice: keep your application and Sitecore platform project separate. So in the next video, we will see few more best practices. We will not go in detail there. We'll just see few of them. Okay, in the next video. Thank you. We are done for today. If you have any question, you can email me on my email address, and or you can connect me on the LinkedIn. Till now, if you are not subscribe to our channel, please subscribe to the channel. Please click on a bell icon to get a latest update. And if you like the video, please like, share, and comment on the video. Thank you.